Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Innovation Unplugged. I'm Houston Blackwood, the host of this show. Flying solo today, I do not have Matt with me, but a very special guest in studio at the Seed Creative Studios is Mr. Charles Jones. He's technically the regional workforce director for the Alabama Community College System. I know him personally as the most interesting man in the Alabama Community College System.
Dos Equis, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's true, Charles, because you, from the first moment I met you, I was so curious because you seem to have knowledge about everything. And such a diverse background. Even this morning, as you're walking in, like you shared some information. So before we get into too many questions about workforce and all that, give us the really cool story about who you are and where you came from and how you got right here.
Which cool story you want? There's so many, because my job, and I used to tell people when they ask me, who are you? I said, I'm the utility player because, I coach softball and you got those utility players, baseball. And I said, next week I might be the janitor, I might be in accounting. So, but I came to the University of Alabama and majored in civil engineering and just worked a little bit of broadcast while there. And I think the story I guess you want to go is how did I get to some of those things that I've done. And you asked me about radio because we walked in and I saw a psych wall and you commented that you were just stunned that I knew what it was. And I said, well, I worked TV in college and it's like, okay, so tell us that story. How did I get in TV? And it all went back to, I've been in leadership probably all of my life from junior high, student council, all that crap. And it's not crap. It made me who I am. It molded me. But president of my student council in high school, principal tells me they got something they want you to read at the radio station, and I went out and read it, and the guy offered me a job, and my mom's a school teacher, and she was forever correcting my subject verb agreement and my grammar, and my dad owned the construction company. And I just told the guy I don't need a job. I work construction with my dad. I went home. My mom made me go back and take the job, and that was the start to my radio career in high school. Came to college, they were giving me $50 a month. That doesn't buy a lot of beer.
Now, what year is that? I mean,
now you want me to date that? 81.
I bet you get a pretty good amount of frosty beverages for $50.
You could do that. I followed a cousin up here who was playing for Bear Bryant. He was a middle linebacker. He was on the Bears last team, and I ran track at Alabama, and I needed a part-time job, and the only two things, if you're in engineering, you ain't got a lot of time to go work a construction job, and I knew radio, and I went to the top 40 station, and they said, oh, we'll get back to you, and the next thing I know, I went to the country western station, and they hired me on the spot. So in college, I worked country western radio, T105 right here in Tuscaloosa. We had old country on the AM, so we did the Hank Williams senior stuff on one side of the building and Hank Williams Jr. on the other. So I got indoctrinated in country music, and after I graduated, I had a dream that my dad, out of stress and needing help, died. And I said, oh, man, I got to go home and help him, because I was in grad school here. And so I was doing construction, and a former employee just got into radio and had what we call a CP, and next thing I know, I was owning a radio station, and now I kind of got a couple of radio stations, and it's easier to ask me what you don't do than to ask me what I do. So through construction, I hold a state of Alabama electrician's license, state of Alabama plumber's license, contractor's license. So I had a good gambit of construction knowledge. We worked in a lot of plants and mills, so I've worked in manufacturing, mostly from a maintenance side. 2008, the housing boom went kind of bad, and the wife at the time threw up a job offering at K-12 school and said, I found you a job. And I said, you know what? I'll come in out of the cold for this one.
Yeah.
And literally when the people say I worked for the bank, I literally went to work for the bank. They took that entire check to keep everything, pay the notes off. And so I got into K-12, and I've always been passionate about giving back. Because even when I had the company, and when I still have the company, I will always hire a college student or a couple of high schoolers and try to mentor them. So when I got into K-12, it was just it was a good fit. And that's when the chancellor found me trying to teach industrial maintenance and welding and machining all by myself and drive the bus. So I would go to the high school, pick the kids up, bring them back to my shop, and teach one class of welding, 2 classes of machine tool, and a class of industrial maintenance. So in addition to that, we went through proration there, and got laid off before that, and had a bus driver's license. I drove school bus for a couple of years to keep things going. And I tell my kids, my students, that all the time: equip your tool belt with as many credentials and as many trades as you can, because you never know when you might have to call upon one of them. So I, it's like I said, it's easy to ask me what I haven't done. And when you ask me that, I'll probably go try to do that next, just to equip my tool belt. People always give me jokes about, oh, I got the Batman utility belt, because, it's always, and that's where what you do is so important. And I tell students that all the time: take advantage of these Skills for Success courses, because you never know what and when it might come in handy. So that's who I am. That was a long, around the bend type story, but hey, here we are to talk about Skills for Success now.
Well, I think it's a really great lead in to all the things that we do. As a college system, as overall, we've got 24 campuses that do a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same core: machining, welding, and healthcare, small business and different things. But then they all got their own regional flavor. And so when you're a young person, you might be blessed to live in an area like Calhoun, Drake, Sneed, or Dothan, Enterprise, LBW. You could really get a lot of unique things from each place. And so, even just yesterday, I sold an old 4-wheeler that had been sitting for 5 years. And this guy came up, and he was from Jasper. We were just talking, and he works maintenance, but he has a bus license on the side. He does maintenance for the school system. And then he moved into bus mechanic, and then they made him get his bus license. Well, guess where he got his bus license?
Where?
From Skills for Success.
Oh,
through Walker County Schools.
Yeah.
And so, but we were talking about that, and he goes, "Yeah, I saw all those other things y'all offer, and I'm pretty handy, but I don't have any papers. I don't have any credentials. He said, I can do all that." And he's one of those guys like you. He can just pick up any tool and make it work. But I was just thinking, he's probably late 30s, maybe, whatever. But so many kids out there who think they have to go get one degree or one certificate, and that's all they're ever going to do. And so that's what I really value about you, is that you understand what it takes to get kids in front of employers with a big toolkit.
Right.
And to sell that idea to our colleges and sell that idea to the business industry for the multi-craft or the multi-use human,
I had a situation, and as you were talking, I was thinking about it. And you're not going to, through Skills for Success, somebody's not going to come out and be an electrician or be a plumber, but it's a great place to start. And case in point, I had a kid that I taught, and I guess Alabama Power came up to this bunch of new hires in the summer and asked them what they know about a acetylene torch. Yeah. Out of that bunch, my student said, "I know how to light it," and they sent him to welding school. Just that little seed, and that's what you're doing through Skills for Success. Is you're actually the impetus of it all and getting them started into something. I have a couple of young men that work for me, and they're helpers now. They're electrician helpers, plumber helpers, but to validate, and they went through I sent them through the course to validate that you do know what you know. Because if you go through the entire course, then you might pick up something you didn't know, but also at the end of it, now you feel confident that I did know what I knew, and now I've been validated in it. So that's one of the great things about the Skills for Success program. getting people exposed to careers. I mean, I've seen, and some people, and I'm gonna be honest about it, there are critics out there that says, "Oh, well, that's a waste. They'll never do it." You never know. And I'm case in point on that. You never know what you might need and when you might need it. So, I think what we do is great. I think what we do is very valuable. I just hope the legislature keeps giving us money to do it.
Yeah.
I hope that the well doesn't run dry, the spigot doesn't go dry on us.
Well, that's always the thing when you're not tuition based. It could be any year. We've been blessed. We're going into our 6th year now. Of funding, and we actually got an increase this year.
Wow.
Not many groups did.
Yeah.
So we took some heartfelt pride, not pride in the dangerous way, that, hey, they saw the value. A, they maintained us, and B, they increased us, right, and gave us more. And because I feel like we've been really good stewards with the few talents that we were given, and we've grown it. So that's a really good snapshot of, and I love from a man who has many talents and skills and many interests, you express very clearly how skills for success fits into that. And I love what you called it out. Like, none of these graduates are masters.
Right.
They're not masters of anything. But it's a good baseline. A couple of points on that. Southern Union ran a facilities maintenance course, carpentry, electrical, plumbing, and customer service.
Oh yeah. For some reason, I guess you're reading my mind, because in my sleep, I was thinking about customer service this morning.
Yeah.
And how it transcends to all of those. Because one of the components of the Skills for Success program is that you have somebody come in and talk to the students on the last day. And this particular day, I was asked by Wallace Selma to go into Sumter County and talk to some students on customer service. Side note, I used to own a hardware store, and when Sears had their dealer stores, that was the last, I guess, business that I had. And you're selling appliances pretty much in Sears, and it's customer service. And I try to tell the students then, you don't know how that person, what type of day that person is having, because I've been on that customer service end where I call and I'm just berating somebody, and you have to understand that you might have talked to 30 customers that day that had problems.
Yeah.
But out of that 30, this is that person's first time calling you. So you have to maintain your composure, even though you're on your 30th customer and you're tired of hearing all these complaints. This is their first complaint, and this is their only complaint. They don't care about the other 29 people who called in. So that, I think it's very valuable to have good customer service skills, regardless of what trade you're in. And I tell my people that, some of them I don't want you talking to the customer, because we haven't seen you through a customer service Skills for Success program. But customer service is very important in any of these trades that you are doing right now.
I love to hear you say that. And a lot of folks think, a carpenter, electrician doesn't need to know that stuff. But I always imagine, working for my father, he had a package store, and customer service was it. Like, and this was back in the 90s and early 2000s. No, he opened in the 80s, so it was in the 90s, and so there weren't many wet places around. People drove a long way to come to his store.
Wow.
And he would know them by name, and he would knew the whole family. But he also knew when they made that little turn across the median, like, he knew what they wanted. And it would be sitting on the curb by the time they backed in. Now, these folks were coming from Walker County, Winston County, and they'd have these old Buicks with trunks big enough for a disco party, and we'd load that thing down, And so we knew, hey, 6 cases or whatever, all the stuff. And I said, well, how do you know that? And he said, I know that because that's what makes them come back. And and they would, this was before debit cards, so they would have their cash, and he said they always bring $100 bill. And so I know I'm going to give them $5.61, and they don't like that penny. Like, he knew so much, but he made them come back. And he told me when I was working for Halleck Myers, he said, when you wear that uniform, no matter where you are, you represent that customer service side of that business. He said, so your shirt's tucked in, it's clean as it can be, and you're nice.
I'm glad you guys added that component, because I guess I didn't realize it, but man, that's been invaluable. Customer service Skills for Success course.
So there's 2 of them.
I did not.
There's a call center version that was developed with Alabama Power, and it's the first part of Jeff State, Lawson State, Trentum's customer service professional course.
Okay.
It's 2 levels. And then we had feedback from like utility companies that would take that course. And they're like, well, these guys don't talk on the phone a lot, but they deal with people face to face a lot. So we need something different. So we made our own internal, and we called it Mastering the Customer Experience. And it's all interaction and like standing up and talking to people and putting these students. And I love to see a young high school kid have to talk to an angry customer.
Right.
Or maybe a customer who's just really not in their right mindset, you know, and it's powerful.
That is.
And so, and you can role play, and we can adapt that. If it's a heavy equipment class and they're adding customer service, you're going to do that outside. It's hot, it's cold, it's raining, it's nasty. I smell like diesel fuel. I still got to be nice to you.
That's right. I mean, it'll help interpersonal skills, communication skills. I mean, especially for high schoolers who are just shy and they haven't really come out yet. All that is, I did not know that, man.
Yeah.
And I work for the company.
Well, it's new. Like it's it's okay you didn't know, because it's actually pretty new. We haven't launched it yet. We haven't made a big deal about it.
Okay.
We've been testing it because it could be a lot of things. But in that, they have to walk up and shake hands and look somebody in the eye. You talk about some black magic and make folks squeal. You know, to be able to do that is, to us, it's just what we do. But
Right.
to a young person.
That's right.
So look for that. It's ready. You can
Okay.
have it. So in your circle, you can roll it out there. I think Shelton's run it a few times. They're the pilot.
Okay.
So it's in your area. Selma can have it. All of them. So that's a great snapshot of Skills for Success. But let's back up a little bit. When you came into the community college system, how long have you been here? And then what was the mood, or what was the momentum like at that time?
Well, I guess I might have been, Jeff Lynn hired me, and the chancellor hired him, and we were all relatively new at that point. I think the chancellor's drive or focus was on workforce, and he went out and got Jeff, and he started to assemble the team. And I've always said that, and I've given the chancellor credit for this, to think outside the box. Sometimes you have to hire outside the box. So, he started going and looking outside the box for talent, so we don't just get the everyday, and in no way I'm saying anything against the educational professional, because that's a worthy profession. But when it came to workforce, I think there was a different beast. The academics of the world, the academia world, just didn't really. I think a lot of our colleges put it out there and say, "Hey, this is what we offer. You figure out what out of that curriculum you can use." Whereas workforce, we were more driven about, what do you want? I think I went down to a college and I asked, who's the customer? And you'll get mixed answers when you ask who the customer is. Somebody said the student. I said, not really. The customer ultimately is the employer, because that's what we do. If you don't set that student up for success, or set that student up to get a job, a meaningful job, you failed them. I mean, it's simple as that. And I'm not taking anything away from any coursework or even if it's art. If I set you up to go into a promotional setting, and you're an artist or a commercial artist, still I've done my job as setting you up. But the customer is the person that's going to hire you at the end of the day. So we need to listen more to the customer, and that's what we do at Workforce. We act as a liaison between workforce and our colleges to make sure what our colleges are doing is relevant. Make sure that we are on target with giving them the product. The student is the product, and so I think that's the focus that we have. That's the focus we have in Workforce. So many times, everybody, and I do get it, and the chancellor's working hard on changing the model. When it comes to college presidents, it was all about for credit. And now it's not about for credit or non-credit. It's about, am I training you to get a job? And that's where, Skills for Success. Because I think I worked on a pilot with Dr. Olson prior to the Innovation Center coming online. We were looking at something for rapid training, because we need to get these people out and working right away. I remember talking to a teacher in Sumter County about trying to get some students in. He said, Jones, I'm going to just tell you, you ain't going to get them if you're going to do math and English. You're going to lose them. I said, what if I can just teach them what they need to know?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you might have something there.
Yeah.
I said, so what if I can just teach them welding? He's like, hey, I can get you a list of kids. And that's where we are now with the non-credit. So we're growing that, and the people on the other side of the house are starting to understand that the non-credit is just as important as the credit. They're starting to understand that, their college presidents are a little worried about they get trained up and then they leave right away. We would love for them to stay, get them through the door and then turn them into a 4-credit program.
Right.
But some of these trades and some of these industries need employees so fast they don't have time. And I guess I complained myself because I was, it might have been Remington or somebody in the Huntsville area that they told me we don't really, because I do machining. I was teaching kids machine tool. And he says, I don't really need them to know all that. I need them to know how to operate the machine. And I was like, well, if they don't know what the machine's doing, we got a problem. But that's how fast we are evolving, that we got a guy that knows how to set the machine up, but we need a machine tool operator, not so much a machinist. But at the end of the day, we get him in that field, we can go back to school at night and do some 4-credit stuff. So I think what you're doing is very valuable in the fact that you get them that taste, you get them that start. We can get their hands, get a living wage coming.
Yeah.
So they can actually start a family. And now I have caught my breath. Now I can I'm no longer the hamster on the wheel. I'm running real hard and I can't really see anything. So, you give them a chance to make money so they can take a look back at the overall picture. And then maybe now I have time to go to school. Because here I am, 62 years old. I'm still in school. So, hey, there's that.
You taking classes?
I'm working on my doctorate.
Good for you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where are you doing it?
Amridge. They're in the old AUM building off of 85. Yeah, they offered half price tuition for ACCS employees. So,
interesting.
Hey, shout out to Amridge.
Amridge, yeah. That's really cool. I love that, man, because like you don't want for skills or credentials or experience, but you're still learning how to apply those things on a bigger scope. That's awesome. That's something a lot of kids don't think about.
Oh yeah,
they get a high school diploma or some college and like, I'm done. I got friends. We're 20 years out of college, and they don't even take professional development or CEUs.
Well, I got a daughter, and I'm gonna bang on her. She's a civil engineer, went to Auburn. I don't know why, but past, in engineering, it used to be when I was in school called the EIT, engineering and training. It's now FE, fundamentals of engineering. So you have to take that one first. You can take it around your junior year, and then you can take the PE exam, which is the professional engineering exam, but you have to work under somebody for 3 years before you can sit for the exam. Well, they changed it. So you can do the FE in college. You can take the PE right out of college. And, she's over the top smart, saluted to her in her class, all that. So she passed the FE, passed the PE exam right out of college. And, now I'm trying to get her to, let's go work on a master's. And she's like, for what? It's like, and I'm like, you never know. You might need some, let's get an MBA, let's get something else. And so, I got it in my own house that, today's youth, they're like, you gotta hammer it into them that we gotta have that utility belt full of everything that you can possibly get.
Yeah. I showed my son a graphic. It was talking about where you work. Like if you're in college, where you work affects how well your degree is played out in the job field. And basically it was saying like, hey, if you work at a bar while you're in engineering, that doesn't relate to, your work experience. But if you work engineering or whatever, if you work in field, it really helps you. And so I showed that to my son. He was like, so what you're telling me is that the school doesn't matter. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying, man. That's not what I'm saying at all. I was like, and he was being a smart aleck, like, gets there from his mom. Not for me, but I was like, no. And he said, I get what you're saying, because he wanted to work at a card shop, a baseball card shop. I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, I got a nephew that, speaking of bar, chemical engineering, and he's working in a bar.
Yeah.
And then he decided to go teach school. He's teaching chemistry down in Houston, and it's running his dad, who's an engineer, crazy because he had an interview with one of the oil companies down in Texas and just wasn't for him.
Well, we had on a previous episode, we had a young man named Devosky Boyd from Montgomery. 29 years old, owns a construction company, and that evolved out of a pressure washing and property maintenance company.
Yeah.
But before that, he has an MBA from Faulkner, and he was a lobbyist.
Wow.
And he said, I got down there, and long story short, I didn't like dressing up in the suit and doing lobbying.
Yeah.
And I felt like something else was different. And so that's what I love to hear you say is, hey, you never know when you're going to need something.
Yep.
But you got to be able to follow your passions.
I did that for the chancellor or for the system 2 years ago. The lobbyist end of it. So
yeah, I thought you did.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
That's one of the things. Yeah.
Let me pick your brain on this. You mentioned that machine tool operator, and I remember I've been to Remington when I worked at Calhoun when they came, and we went out there, and it was really cool. And those, there was this huge hangar of mills and lathes, CNCs, and it was everywhere. And there were guys who sat around there, and they were just operating. They weren't doing the sets and setting up the computer. So we built the machine operator course with Southern Union. There was, the company that asked for it, and the city of Auburn asked for it. And I've taken it to several companies, and they were like, I don't know, and I struggle to get those people to understand the value of a machine operator who would come out of high school, a senior that's graduated. He's got this thing. He understands how to operate. And from a scale, and I think especially in Huntsville or down in Troy now with the new Lockheed facility, and Calhoun over in Cortland, and Northwest Shoals in Cortland. Now we got the submarines coming in Northwest. My goodness, all the machining is happening there. So if these young people understand intro to welding, intro to machining, where we struggle. Let me see. How do I phrase this? How do we really punch through and convince the big decision makers that we need this? And what has been successful in your eyes with getting those industries to understand the power of this tiny credential in the workforce?
That's an interesting question, because just yesterday I was up in Double Springs, and Julie, we were listening to some industry up there, and machine operator came up. At least Julie and I came up with the fact that we might need to go back and visit this company and offer them machine operator, because they're in a bad way in the fact that they really don't know. And it's an education thing. We got to figure out how to educate industry on what they need. And that's kind of strange to say, because you would think they know what they need, but
they don't. They don't, Charles.
They don't.
I saw that at working with ATN, Perry Shields. And man, once we connected, it was like throwing some jet fuel on a campfire, man. We had a good time. But we would go to these businesses, and they would call and say, hey, I need XYZ. And you get over there and you do like a quick analysis, and that's not even close to what they really needed. And it's like, well, y'all are all really intelligent people, and you work here every day, but you miss that. Or you had it, maybe backwards. What's our best approach to telling these companies, hey, we see you, we hear you, but what about this? Think about it differently. And you said earlier, hiring and thinking outside the box, but how do we get those people to do that?
And you guys have all of the tools maybe to do these courses, and you do videos. I think we might have to actually show the tool or the machine that we want them to operate in a video with a student of ours, maybe operating it, and then show the return that, this kid went through this, this, and this, and he can operate this. Now, we're not saying he could set it up, but he can operate it because he went through our operators course. I think it's an educational thing. Just like we educate our students, we might have to do educational videos for our customers.
So we did here at Seed, they helped us with some behind the scenes. And it was like, what is it like to be XYZ employee? They did all kinds of, probably 10 different courses, different fields. And it was designed to get really more for the students eventually. But then we also did some employer videos, and they were successful. And I think we pivoted from that at some point, and they're going to kill me because I'm not getting that right. But I think we didn't. I think we didn't do enough for the employers to really, and I say aggressively go after them and say, hey, here's what your college can do. And I go to these conferences and I'm like, hey, before I get started, who knows who the Alabama community college system is? Okay. Who knows your local community college? They get it. Who knows your workforce person at the college?
Yeah.
And it's
To
crickets.
the weeds.
You got that one guy in the back that he and I are already texting because we've been working together for, So it's like, okay. And I say that and I'm like, all right. I just did it at the League of Municipalities a month ago. They all knew their colleges, but they didn't know the workforce person.
Right.
And I just went off script. And I was like, well, that's your problem.
That's another, and I guess we're jumping all over the place.
That's okay.
I'm Mayor Pro Tem in Demopolis, and you guys have started the Skills for Success course with the Alabama League of Municipalities, which I think is great because, man, I'm in my 14th year on city council. My dad did 20 before that, and it wasn't mandatory. I think it is mandatory now. And I think that's a great thing because you'll get a councilman that comes in and thinks that we're all idiots, and because you don't know how municipal government works. So I think that was another great win for you, or a success story that you can tell.
Well, that came from the chancellor. He had some friends at the league, and he was like, hey, they got this law coming, which is how our CDO course came. He's like, hey, we got this law coming. Can we do a thing? And we did. And they love it. Mary Jackson Pollard, give a shout out to her, and Caleb Bass at the league. They do a good job of getting the right content to us, and that's been wildly successful. But that conference was fun because those folks didn't know that their sanitation workers could all get Class B, Class A CDL, heavy equipment excavator, whatever. Hey, listeners, this conversation is going really good, and we have so much more information to share. So this is going to wrap up this episode of Innovation Unplugged. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and be watching next week for part 2 with Charles Jones on Innovation Unplugged.